So we potentially have some exciting info when it comes to the future of the Fallout franchise and the next Fallout game. However, I do need to preface this video by saying it is very much based on a rumor, though it's based on a rumor from someone that actually does have some credibility in this space. This is not someone that's just created a new account on 4chan or Reddit and tried to start a random rumor. This is not someone that's proven themselves wrong time and time again when it comes to sharing inside info and leaks. This is actually someone that has a good reputation in this space, and in particular for sharing inside info from Xbox, and therefore by implication, Bethesda. So let me set up the context for this rumor. It's important. I'll then talk about the rumor and I'll share my thoughts and opinions throughout. So if you enjoy this video and want to see more Fallout content from me, please like, subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But let's get right into this video. So we all know how popular and hyped the Fallout franchise is right now. And of course, that's in large part thanks to the Fallout TV show. Yes, the Fallout 4 Next Gen update has helped a little bit in that regard. Yes, 76's new map expansion that's in PTS and its new season has helped a little bit in that regard. But by and large, it was absolutely the Fallout TV show. The Fallout TV show was so bloody popular and so well received that it's had such a roll-on effect onto the entirety of the Fallout franchise that it's actually kind of ridiculous. So on Rotten Tomatoes, for instance, the Fallout TV show has a score of 93% from critics and 89% from audiences. Just ridiculous. I don't think a lot of us suspected or expected that would happen, but that absolutely happened when the show dropped. And also, Prime Video has told us that it's among its top 3 most watched titles ever. Not just this year, not just this month or this quarter, ever. It is Prime Video's most watched season of a series globally since Lord of the Rings of Power, right? Absolutely insane. And apparently for the period between April 12 and April 18, Fallout saw 5 million views and an incredible 2.5 billion minutes watched, right? And because of that popularity, because of how well it was received, we're already getting a season 2, we know that. So Fallout has been such a huge success for Prime Video and Kilter Films, and of course, by implication, Bethesda and Bethesda Game Studios. And when we talk about that roll-on effect, that snowball effect for the games, it's been quite astonishing to watch. So Fallout 76, let's use that as the first example, because that was a game that many people didn't like. That was a game that many people thought could never have its second heyday, ever again in the future. It was just done and dusted, and it was just going to do its thing. Even this game recently peaked at 72,930 players on Steam. That's its highest peak concurrent player count ever. Even more so than when the game was migrated from Bethesda.net to Steam. It beat out the peak concurrent player record on that day, which is actually insane. And they told us on Twitter as well that 76 reached over 1 million players in a single bloody day. Now, of course, 76 has been going through a free trial week, so that of course has been helping in that regard when it comes to hitting that many players. However, 76 has had many free trial weekends and many free trial weeks over the past few years, right? And just because it's had those doesn't mean it's hit these kinds of numbers before. There's been a huge roll-on effect thanks to the Fallout TV show. And yes, in combination with the free trial week, that's why 76 is so popular right now. But it's not just 76. You look at Fallout 4 as well. Fallout 4 just hit a peak concurrent player count of 186,746 players. That's not its highest ever, but it is absolutely its highest since launch. I think launch was over 400k or 450k off the top of my head. But still, 186,000 is a ridiculous number to hit in a single day. And again, that's been driven in part by the Next Gen update and by discounts. Fallout 4 was pretty cheap to pick up, when the Fallout TV show came out. That's of course why they did it. But still, you still had that many people playing the game and purchasing the game. And when it comes to purchases and sales, it was the best-selling game in both Europe and Australia and potentially other territories as well. In Europe in particular, sales rose by over 7,500% week on week. That's just a ridiculous percentage number. Absolutely insane. And from what I can see at regular brick and mortar stores like your EB Games and your GameStop, I know you don't have EB Games in the US, but we still have that in Australia. I believe in Canada as well. But at those local stores, those brick and mortar stores, they've run out of physical discs of Fallout 4 and 76 to sell. That's just unheard of. It would have been unheard of even at launch, but right now, over 9 years after the launch of Fallout 4 in particular, to run out of physical discs to sell is insane. And then when you take a step back and look at the wider Fallout franchise, Bethesda has shared with us that almost 5 million people across all Fallout games played in a single day recently. Almost 5 million. Fallout Shelter has even had a bit of a boost as well. According to Layer Licensing, potentially its daily revenue quadrupled from $20,000 to $80,000. And then when you look at modding, Nexus Mods recently had a huge hit to their traffic, and they couldn't support how many people were downloading mods for all Fallout games, not just Fallout 4, but also New Vegas and 3, of course. They couldn't support all that traffic. So many people were playing and modding their games that they had to try and get extra resources. So recently on the Nexus Mod site, they shared this statement. We are experiencing much more traffic than usual due to the popularity of the Fallout TV series. We have deployed extra resources where possible, and we are monitoring the uptime and performance across the network. We have staff on call at all times to deal with any problems. Please do be aware that this extra traffic could cause a degraded experience across the website and our applications. I genuinely don't remember the last time this happened to Nexus Mods. It would be more understandable if it was the next Fallout game, right? If it was Fallout 5 causing so many people to download mods. That one I'd be like, oh yeah, I get it, I understand. But this is an outside medium. It's a TV show about the franchise causing so many people to flock to the games and also to flock to a third-party mod site to download mods for those games. It's been absolutely ridiculous. The popularity and hype around Fallout, seemingly, even though it might not be technically, it feels like it's at an all-time high, at least since the launch of Fallout 4, right? Because that was pretty hype as well. So because of that, we've noticed it. Of course, Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda have noticed it. But you know who's probably noticed it as well, whether or not you take this rumor as fact or not? Xbox. Xbox, of course, would realize what is going on with Fallout right now. And they would know, because they're smart people, they would know what they need to do next. And what they need to do next is get a bloody new Fallout game out of the door. But do they wait until Fallout 5, which is potentially years and years away? Because we'll talk about that in a second. Or do they find some sort of other way to get a new Fallout game out of the door? So this is where the recent rumor comes, all right? And it was shared by Jez Corden. I've talked about Jez Corden time and time again on this channel. Those of you that have watched my videos, you'll know Jez Corden very much has a credible track record when it comes to sharing legitimate inside info from Xbox. He's shared so much legitimate inside info that anytime he talks about this kind of stuff, you have to listen. You have to take some note. And even if it's with a grain of salt, I would still listen to him over many other people sharing inside info. So on the latest episode of his The Xbox 2 podcast, this is what Jez Corden claimed. Quote, Xbox is currently formulating plans on how to get the next Fallout here for us sooner rather than later. He also continues by saying, we constantly talk about, will we even see Fallout this decade? And the answer is, I think we will. So if it was just this rumor, all right, maybe I wouldn't be so excited. Maybe I wouldn't be so bloody happy. And I know I tend to get like this when it comes to any kind of rumors or leaks potentially being shared around. I get excited because I get excited about Fallout and the future of the franchise. However, if you remember a couple of years ago, there was a very similar rumor shared, not by Jez Corden, but by someone else who also has credibility, and that is Jeff Grubb. So a couple of years ago, Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb shared a very similar rumor on his Giant Bomb show called Grubb Snacks. Now that is paywalled, though I'll include an article in the description below which has the transcript. And this is what Grubb said a couple of years ago. Quote, this is very early, but people have begun to have talks and say these words in sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2. We're talking years and years away. There's at least an interest and conversations happening about making something like that actually a reality. Grubb added, a lot of people at Microsoft think that this could work, and there's a lot of interest to make it happen. So we're not just talking about the Fallout TV show and them seeing the hype and being like, oh, of course we got to get another Fallout game out of the door, whether it's Fallout 5 or another spin-off. Xbox, seemingly, if you believe Jeff Grubb in this instance, have always wanted to do this. They've always wanted to create a new Fallout game, and apparently they use that exact phrase, Fallout New Vegas 2. They seemingly want a spin-off by the likes of Obsidian, or maybe In Exile. They just want a new Fallout game, because they can see the obvious too. They can see how long it's going to be until Fallout 5. If Bethesda Game Studios does its thing, still does Starfield DLC, and Elder Scrolls 6, and then Fallout 5 after that, it's going to be a very long time. So, of course, I believe that they've always wanted to do this. But the TV show has absolutely reinforced that fact, right? It's going to be so bloody popular. If the TV show alone has had this effect on the games, what do you think now, especially after the TV show, a new Fallout game is going to do? Copies are going to sell off the bloody shelves. And we have to go back to the fact that they spent over $7.5 billion on acquiring ZeniMax. $7.5 billion. Do you really think they want one of their most popular franchises or IP in the form of Fallout just to remain dormant until 2030? Of course not. Regardless of the TV show, regardless of the hype around Fallout right now, Fallout was always popular. Fallout was always going to print them a lot of money, especially if it was going to be New Vegas 2, specifically by Obsidian. If they want to cash in on that investment, because absolutely they're still slowly doing that, there's no way they've made $7.5 billion specifically on Bethesda and ZeniMax since they acquired it. If they want to eventually recoup that investment, they're going to have to release games like this and create games like this, and Fallout is going to make so much money when it comes to another game. So I absolutely believe that something like this would be true. Again, whether or not you actually believe what Jez Corden has said, you have to admit, these conversations are probably taking place. There's no way Xbox doesn't see this TV show and think, you know what, maybe we should make another Fallout game. If they're not doing that internally right now, they would be the stupidest people alive. And I fundamentally don't believe that. I do not believe that. I really do believe that these conversations are taking place. So take it or leave it. I'll leave that to you. But let's talk about Fallout 5. We know that Fallout 5 is probably going to be many, many years away, right? I've made a couple of videos about this, but I'm going to go through the motions again. We know that right now that BGS predominantly is still working on Starfield. Starfield hasn't even had DLC yet, right? We still haven't seen Shattered Space. And last that we saw, Todd Howard confirmed they have over 250 developers working on Starfield right now. And then we also know that The Elder Scrolls 6 is out of pre-production. So that game, to some extent, is also being made. Let's say around 50 to 100 people or so. That's just out of my ass. But let's say 50 to 100 people at BGS have started moving on to Elder Scrolls 6 now that it's out of pre-production and in actual kind of development. Also as well, we know that some amount of people, I don't know how many, but some amount of people are on Fallout 4. They just did the Fallout 4 Next Gen update. Plus that has some issues. They're going to have to fix that as well. Potentially they might have multiple updates over the coming weeks or months. So they're still doing that. And yes, at BGS, specifically BGS Austin, there are still people working on Fallout 76. Fallout 76 is not just being made by Double 11 and a couple of other studios. People at BGS are still working on that game, and they're doing a new map expansion. They're doing a new, big quest line. They have this new season system. So 76 is still pumping, especially with the increase to players. They're still going to be supporting that game potentially for the next couple of years, right? So you have that, you have Starfield, you have Elder Scrolls 6 and all that kind of stuff. And Todd, of course, when it comes to Fallout 5, has confirmed a couple of things. One, Fallout 5 is definitely coming next after the Elder Scrolls 6. But also, two, he refuses to put a date on it because he knows how vague and up in the air it is. In an interview with IGN, Todd was asked the question, Todd, I want to switch gears a little bit and ask more about the games. We obviously know that Fallout 5 is in the works, but you have said in the past that the plan is Elder Scrolls 6 and then Fallout 5. Is that still the plan, or is there any chance that that could change based on the interest from the show? And Todd's response was, I'm going to avoid putting dates on anything. I've learned that the hard way. So obviously our focus as far as new development right now is Elder Scrolls 6, but that doesn't mean that we're not making plans for other things. We're still doing a lot of work, obviously on Fallout 76, which is what I said before, and we see the community, so many people going into that game and kind of rediscovering it and just so happy with where that game is at. It really does, and I mean, this has one of the best communities in all of gaming. Surprisingly, it's a very, very nice apocalypse, and we're doing a lot of Starfield work as well. So we have some really good updates that are going to get announced soon for that game, so a lot going on here. Do you see how Todd Howard is clearly skirting around even mentioning Fallout 5 in any kind of capacity? He's also doing that with the Elder Scrolls 6, right? The Elder Scrolls 6 is coming next, and he still doesn't really want to talk about that game, let alone Fallout 5. He'd rather talk about 76 and Starfield and other titles like that. So I just think Fallout 5 is not even in his mind space right now. Like, it's so far away for BGS and for Todd that it's not even worth talking about or thinking about or mentioning in an interview with IGN. So because of that, we know that Fallout 5 is so bloody far away. We know that's why Xbox probably is having these conversations. They know they need to do something else with the Fallout franchise until Fallout 5. Not necessarily take Fallout 5 away from BGS, but allow the Fallout franchise to be used in some sort of other way. Because if we actually try and put some dates to it, The Elder Scrolls 6 is probably 4 to 5 years away, which is going to make it 2028 or 2029. So if after that point Fallout 5 is another 4 to 5 years away, that could be 2032 to 2034. We're talking from now 8 to 10 years for Fallout 5, potentially. 2032 to 2034. I don't know how old I'm going to be then. It's going to be older, and I'm not going to feel good. My back's going to hurt. But that's probably when we're getting Fallout 5. That is the most realistic expectation for that game. So surely Xbox need to try and get Bethesda Game Studios to let up on the franchise and allow another developer to make another Fallout game, right? So what are the options? Now, Insider Gaming had an interesting point that I want to talk about here. They said the following in their article, quote, "At this point, one of the only avenues the company could take to speed up the development of Fallout 5 is to take it away from Bethesda Game Studios entirely." I just don't agree with this, right? There's no way Xbox is taking away Fallout 5 from BGS. Just not happening whatsoever. Fallout 5 is going to be made by Bethesda Game Studios. But of course, that's not the only avenue. Like, what are we talking about? As I said, let another developer create a Fallout spin-off, just like Fallout New Vegas. We know how popular and beloved Fallout New Vegas is and was. Why wouldn't we just go down that path? Why does taking Fallout 5 away from BGS have to be one of the options? It's not one of the options. It's not practical. Leave Fallout 5 to BGS, and again, let another developer internally at Xbox, at Microsoft, make the next Fallout game, whether it's New Vegas 2 or some sort of other spin-off. They already have Obsidian. Obsidian already did New Vegas, and of course they've done The Outer Worlds and Pillars of Eternity, Grounded, Pentiment, Avowed's coming as well. They clearly have an incredible track record when it comes to games. Why not Obsidian? Why not In Exile? Another dev team well known for creating RPGs. Yes, top-down RPGs, but RPGs nonetheless. However, they are getting more experience in that regard when it comes to Clockwork Revolution, and they, of course, did Wasteland, they did Hunted the Demon's Forge. So you've got In Exile, you've got Obsidian, you've got many other studios. They can also go to a third-party studio, but they don't need to do that. They've got two very capable studios internally at Xbox that they could look to create a new Fallout game. So why make this difficult? Why make this as difficult as saying, yeah, take Fallout 5 away from BGS? That's not going to happen. Though that does bring me to an important discussion that I believe we really need to have at the end of this video, because I believe there are people out there that actually think Xbox would just take Fallout away from Bethesda Game Studios. Whether or not they say yes, whether or not they actually approve, they would just take the franchise away. They would take Fallout 5 away and say, hey, if you can't make this in the next 4 to 5 years, we're just going to give it to another studio, and tough titties, it doesn't matter what you say. Or even if it's not Fallout 5, it could be a spin-off, they would still take that, franchise away from them and say, we're going to give a spin-off to another developer studio. Whether or not you like that, whether or not you approve, we're going to do it because we own you. We own ZeniMax, we own Bethesda Game Studios, we own Fallout as a franchise. We're going to do it because we can, and we want to print a bunch of money because of the TV show and the hype around Fallout. I truly believe there are people out there that think Xbox would be willing to do that. And yes, technically on paper, they could. They do own Fallout. They do own BGS as a dev. They do own ZeniMax as a wider company. If they really wanted to, whether or not Todd actually gave his approval or liked the idea, technically they could do it, right? However, they won't. There's a lot of practicalities here at play. It's not just about the control you have over your company. You need to keep people happy, especially including Todd Howard, especially including someone of that importance, especially including arguably Bethesda's biggest developer at BGS and probably their most important developer. They are literally making The Elder Scrolls 6. You need to remember, they didn't just acquire ZeniMax and BGS for their franchises. It wasn't just for Fallout. It wasn't just for future Fallout games and for The Elder Scrolls and The Elder Scrolls 6 and future Elder Scrolls games. It was also for their people. It was for their dev teams. It was for their resources and their studios. It was for the people that actually made those games. So why would they do something so aggressive and perverse to just piss off those people, right? What do you think Todd's going to do in that instance? Do you think he's just going to roll over and say, oh, I'm happy for you to take Fallout 5 away or the next Fallout spin-off away? You think he's just going to be happy doing that? Of course not. Like, he needs to be part of the process. They need to get his buy-in and approval and input. And if they do that, then everyone else is happy. Todd also understands that money is an issue here. Todd also understands that it's probably not a good idea for Fallout as a franchise just to remain dormant for all these years, right? But you can't go in from that perspective and say, hey, we're just going to take it away, because you're just going to piss off Todd, and he might leave, and a bunch of other devs at BGS might leave. And then who's going to make Elder Scrolls 6? And then who's going to make, Fallout 5 if they're still doing Fallout 5? Like, Xbox do have a lot of other studios, but they can't afford, in my opinion, just losing BGS. They acquired them for a reason, right? And they're probably one of the best suited to create a game like Fallout 5. But when it comes to a spin-off, yes, Obsidian, In Exile, other studios, even maybe some within Activision Blizzard, but other studios could make that. They just need to get Todd and BGS's approval and buy-in so everyone's happy, so everyone is on board with what's going on. That's the way it is. Those are the practicalities at play here. It's not just that they own the company, they still need to work with them and make sure that they're happy, all right? So that's what I believe about this rumor. Those are my opinions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.